Everyone thinks they know the story. The U.S. military dropped poison-filled mice from helicopters onto a Pacific island to kill snakes. The internet went wild. People shared it, laughed about it, called it genius, and then collectively agreed that Guam's snake problem was basically handled. Mission accomplished. Problem solved. Roll credits. Except none of that is true. The snakes are not gone. The island is not recovering, and the airdrop did not do what most people think it did. Today we are pulling apart the most viral invasive species story of the last decade, myth by myth, number by number, and what we find underneath is genuinely stranger and more unsettling than the headline ever was. The brown tree snake arrived on Guam after World War II as a stowaway in military cargo. Guam had no native snakes, zero. The island's birds, lizards, and small animals had evolved for millions of years with no reason to fear a predator dropping out of the trees at night. They were, in the most literal sense, sitting ducks. Once established, the brown tree snake became an apex predator with no natural enemies and plenty to eat. It hunts silently through the canopy at night, strikes fast, and delivers a venomous bite. Bird populations collapsed as the snake population expanded. The forest went quiet. Then came the numbers that should make your jaw drop. Localized estimates sometimes reached 29 or more snakes per acre of jungle, among the highest snake densities ever recorded anywhere on Earth. Some government estimates put it at 13,000 snakes per square mile in forested areas of Guam. 13,000 snakes per square mile of a single island. When people saw the airdrop headline and thought, "Great, that'll sort it," they were imagining a pest control problem. What they were actually looking at was a full-scale ecological catastrophe unfolding for nearly 80 years. Here is what the airdrop actually is, because the real version is both cooler and more limited than the myth. Tablets of concentrated acetaminophen, the active ingredient in Tylenol, are placed inside dead mice. The drug disrupts the oxygen-carrying ability of the snake's hemoglobin when ingested. Before deployment, each mouse is attached to 2 pieces of cardboard joined by a paper streamer designed to snag in the upper branches where brown tree snakes hunt, rather than fall to the jungle floor where other animals might eat them. Dead mice, tiny parachutes, Tylenol, helicopters. This is what ecological desperation looks like. And it is magnificent. But here is the part almost nobody who shared that story bothered to read. The airdrop is a localized suppression tool, not an eradication weapon. Treated baits were deployed on 6-hectare plots at 37.5 baits per hectare. Snake activity dropped by 80 to 85% by the 3rd application. That sounds incredible until you remember Guam covers roughly 540 square kilometers, and the snake population sits in the millions. You're treating a patch. The patch recovers. The snakes move back in. The cycle continues. Here is the question I want you to think about. If you had to choose between running the airdrop program indefinitely or pouring those same resources into protecting a single snake-free island for native birds, which would you pick? Comment your thoughts below, because that exact dilemma is playing out in real time, and the answer is not what you would expect. 10 of Guam's 12 original forest bird species have been lost. The remaining 2 are considered functionally extinct. They technically still exist, but can no longer perform their ecological role. Ghosts in a forest that no longer knows what to do without them. The Micronesian kingfisher, the seaheck, went from thousands of individuals to 0 wild birds in under a decade. It now exists only in captive breeding programs at U.S. zoos and one facility on Guam. In 2024, 9 captive-bred birds were released onto Palmyra Atoll, a predator-free U.S.-managed refuge with forests similar enough to support the species. Within a year, pairs had nested and laid eggs, the first wild-laid eggs in roughly 40 years. That is extraordinary. But notice where those birds are, nearly 6,000 kilometers from Guam, on a completely different island, because returning them to their actual home is still impossible while the snakes remain. Now here is where the data gets truly strange, and this is the part mainstream coverage almost never reaches. When the birds disappeared, something else exploded, something you would never guess. Spiders. Guam's forest birds ate spiders and invertebrates. Once the birds vanished, that predation pressure was removed. Researchers comparing Guam with nearby snake-free islands found spider web densities up to 40 times higher on Guam during the wet season. Surveys estimate the island hosts between 508 million and 733 million spiders, roughly 40 times more than neighboring islands like Rota, Tinian, and Saipan. The snakes did not make the spiders. The snakes ate the birds ate the spiders. Remove the birds, and the spiders inherit the forest. This is a trophic cascade, a chain reaction through the food web that nobody predicted and that no amount of poisoned mice is going to fix. And the trees are next. Around 70% of Guam's native trees rely on birds to disperse their seeds. Now fruits fall and rot. Seeds fail to germinate. Forest regeneration has slowed. Gaps left by fallen trees remain empty. The forest looks green from the outside but is biologically hollowing out from within, season by season, generation by generation. Meanwhile, the snakes cause economic damage that is almost comically relentless. Power outages from snakes climbing electrical infrastructure cost an estimated $4.5 million annually. In a recent stretch, snakes caused nearly 200 outages per year. 200 times a year, a snake takes out the grid for an island that has been dealing with this for 80 years. So, what is actually working? Area searches of Andersen Air Force Base, where the largest remnant Micronesian starling population persists, revealed a 15-fold population increase since the early 1990s. The current island-wide population is estimated at roughly 1,400 individuals, likely due to a combination of snake control and the starling's ability to exploit urban infrastructure as refuge. The concrete jungle is, bizarrely, saving some of the last jungle birds. Nobody planned that. But a skewed age ratio, over 90% adults and subadults, indicates snake predation is still hitting young birds hard before they can establish. The population is aging. It is not yet self-sustaining. That is the real lesson of Guam that nobody wants to say out loud. We are very good at generating heroic-sounding headlines and very bad at reckoning with actual scale. The airdrop is real, it is clever, and it suppresses snakes on a localized patch of forest. But the brown tree snake remains the greatest impediment to the reestablishment of extirpated native fauna. That is the honest summary of where we are. The snakes are not mostly gone. Population numbers remain high in nearly all forested and urban habitats throughout Guam. The airdrop is not a decisive win. The bird data does not tell a recovery story. It tells a story of a few species clinging on in the margins while the forest slowly forgets how to function without them. The seahawk is nesting on Palmyra Atoll for the first time in 40 years. That matters. The starlings are holding on in the suburbs. That matters too. But the forest is still quiet. The spiders are still everywhere, And somewhere on a jungle hillside in Guam right now, a brown tree snake is doing exactly what it has been doing since the 1940s, climbing, hunting, and thriving in a place that never had a defense against it. The myth says the war is almost won. The data says we are still figuring out how to fight it. If this video changed how you think about the Guam story or invasive species management in general, hit subscribe, because we go this deep every single time. And if you know someone who shared that poisoned mice headline without reading past the first paragraph, send them this. They need it.